up, everyone? How's it going? Yeah, I know it's been a little while. I've been traveling a lot, started a new job, and I spent lots of time away from home, only with my mobile studio setup on me, basically. So today I'm back. I want to explain you something that I personally find very useful when I produce my tracks. And basically, I would like to show you 15 steps to dramatically improve your tech house productions. And I feel like it's a system that works for me, and so I hope that it will work for you too and help you out a little bit. So the first step would be to get inspired. So you want to listen to a track by an artist that you really look up to, and you want to use a track as a reference track that really, touches you emotionally. So you wanna end up with a similar effect like that. You want to create a similar emotional impact. So basically, step 2 is to write down what makes the track emotionally impactful. So why do you love it so much? What is it? Is it the vocals? Is it the melody? Is it the drums? Why does it tickle you in the way it does? It's really important that you write down actually why you feel the way you do when you listen to that track, because it gives you an idea of what musical elements the original producer used to create this impact. It's like a language, Essentially what I'm trying to tell you is you gotta listen, or you gotta start to listen emotionally to your music, because ultimately that's what you want to create. If you want to create a song that has a huge impact on the market and on other people, it needs to have a really, really good emotional impact. And for that, I think it's great if you train yourself to listen to other people's tracks and just figure out why you enjoy them, And you can do that bar by bar, basically. Just scroll through the song, listen to it very carefully, and see what makes it so nice. And then, if you want to create something similar, well, then we come to step 3, because you should also use similar elements. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the next step would be to look in your sample library for appropriate samples. And if you don't find the right sounds, try to find them online. Go to, I don't know, a download site or so, buy them, whatever, Or, of course, you can also use a synth to create a similar sound. But usually the first step, I would say, or the best step is probably to either find them in your library, something that you think is quite similar, or go out and download it. And the elements to check are the obvious ones, the drum sounds. What kind of drum sounds, what kind of bongo sounds does the producer use? What kind of kick? Is it a long kick, a short kick? What kind of bass line is it? What melodic synths? Is it just a single sound that makes the entire track? Or is it very convoluted? Are there many layers to it? I don't know what kind of track you're trying to make, but try to dissect it a little bit. And every time when you listen to an instrument that the original producer uses, ask yourself, okay, what kind of emotional impact does that tone create? Also try to look in your sample library for these little tiny sounds that might be here and there randomly placed in the original track. That's what makes the difference nowadays in modern tech house production. Many times it's just the amount of details, and also the special effects. So whooshes and stuff like that in general, super duper important. You gotta have really good libraries, like samples, with respect to that. If you don't, then it's time to download some new samples, I would say. Yeah, because it can really make or break a track, you know. You can't use old whooshes from 2010 or so. You can, but it's gonna sound like crap. So yeah, in general, before you start the real production process, make sure consider yourself a cook. Like, you need to make sure that you have all the ingredients that you need to create your dish, right? So you gotta check your samples and see, is there the emotional impact that I'm looking for? Yeah, do I have these kind of instruments that can create that? Then also ask yourself, is the style right? Because I mean, like, yeah, you might love a track and you, how can I say this? And you might be really fond of a certain artist, but if your own artist profile is very different, and if you've made very different songs, like, I don't know, like, let's say, for example, you want to make a progressive house track or so, but you usually produce tech house, yeah, I don't know if that's a good idea, you know, just artistically speaking, because it might confuse your listeners, you know. It's okay to sort of change your style now and then, but first you need to have your own style before, and then you can slowly change it, I would argue, you know. Yeah, and of course always check whether there is a stylistic coherence between the sample sounds that you use. If they, you know, they all need to fit together, and if they don't, then if there's one sample sticking out, replace that sample. Like, don't try to save time on that part, because you're gonna regret it. Yeah, so and basically the essence here is you need to be merciless when you compare your sound, your sample, to the reference element. If it's not as good or even better than the original element, you have a problem, because you're gonna end up with a weaker track. It's gonna sound less energetic, you know, and that's not what you want. You want to build on your reference track. Like, you want to make something that's even cooler, right? So yeah, you gotta invest some time into the preparation, okay? Yeah, step 4 would be make it your own, you know? I'm not telling you to blindly copy the other track. I'm telling you to copy it or even improve it in terms of energy, yeah? I'm not telling you to copy every single element and just replace it, I don't know, play it a note higher or so. I wouldn't recommend that, because you're just gonna be like a copycat, you know? You don't want that. But yeah, so you can replace elements. You can, for example, yeah, throw in a very different element that creates a different vibe into the equation, but make sure that it matches the energy level of the original track, or is even better. Chances are it's not, but you can try it out. And then step 5 would be to create the first loop, yeah? You start with the kick, you create the hi-hats on top, always listen to your reference track as well. Usually start from the busiest part of the reference track, yeah, the second drop, or maybe the outro or so, because there you can listen maybe a little bit more isolated to certain elements. And then after you have the kick and the top sounds, create the bass. Again, always check with the reference track. Yeah, is the volume level right of the elements? Is there panning on them, some processing? If you hear something like that, yeah, just do it right from the start. Make sure that you don't work with a crappy version, you know, with a crappy loop. I would rather work with an 8-bar loop that is really, really good, instead of like having an entire arrangement that sounds like shit. Okay, so before you do your arrangement, make sure that your 8-bar loop sounds fucking perfect. So yeah, step 6 would be like, yeah, once you have that 8-bar loop and it sounds really fat and impactful, copy it all the way from start to finish into your arrangement, and then you delete all the parts you don't need. So basically you listen to the reference track and then you take out the elements according to what you don't hear. Yeah, so in the break, of course, maybe towards the end you don't need the kick or whatever, or it's filtered extremely, I don't know. So yeah, step 7 would be, in terms of the arrangement, automation. It's not enough just to delete certain elements. You gotta have everything grouped together through buses, so that you have control over your arrangement. Because in modern tech house production, at least, many times you apply a high pass or low pass filter in the break sections, or a reverb or whatever, and you apply it to the entire kick and bass or entire beat. It really depends on the tracks, but so it's very important to have control, and automation gives you that. Hello. That's my girlfriend. Anyway, okay, step 8. So once you have, step 8 would be, once you have the sounds placed, you have the arrangement and automation in place. It's time to listen bar for bar again to the reference track. And this is just quality assurance. Yeah, you really got to do it, and not get sloppy. Yeah, if the original track does something that your track doesn't do, it's time to question yourself whether your track needs that or not. You know, chances are it needs to do the same thing in the arrangement like your reference track. Chances are, it's really easy to mess up these formulas. You know, that's why I'm saying this. So yeah, you got to discipline yourself and fix it before you move on. Okay. Step 9 would be to create a temporary DJ master chain. After you've done, I mean, like, you can find tutorials for that online. You can use Isotopia. So, you know, as long as you don't mix too high of a volume into the mix, the mastering chain, I think you're good. You can even use like, yeah, Isotopia or whatever, you know, and a preset there. But yeah, so create a DJ master chain and then bounce out your track and show it to your trusted peers. When I say trusted peers, I mean either people that are really your target group, yeah, I mean, like, from your listener base, but even better, other DJs or producers that you trust. Actually DJs, like, DJs are even more important than producers, because producers only produce. DJs are actually the ones that present it to the crowd, and that you want the DJs to find your track useful, right? So send it to 2 or 3 DJs that like you, that you have a personal relationship with, and who can give you qualified, detailed feedback. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. And yeah, you got to tell them to be brutally honest with you, and you know, because you need it. Like, otherwise you are deluding yourself. Yeah, and you don't want that. So step 10 would be get the feedback from the other DJs and make the necessary adjustments to your track. And then step 11 would be you gotta wait 2 weeks and not listen to your track at all. Just leave it on your hard drive. Don't put it on your iPhone or whatever, you know, just forget about it completely. Because after these 2 weeks, you're gonna have the feeling that it's not your track anymore. You have a neutral view on it again. And that's exactly what you will need in order to make the right judgment. And what it needs to really take it to the next level, because you're immediately gonna hear what's wrong and what works and what doesn't work with it. Otherwise, you know, it's one of the biggest traps. Like, we producers, we always tend to fall in love with our own beats because we listen to them so many times, and then we are surprised why the market or other producers don't feel the same way about our beats, you know? And in order to fix that, it's really necessary to take a break and to get distance to your own creation, basically. So let's just say that 2 weeks have passed. Then, yeah, listen to your track again, but without opening it up in Logic or Ableton or whatever. Yeah, just play the wave or the MP3 file and listen to it and write down what works, what doesn't work, stylistic coherence, sample choice, plugin processing. Yeah, and then if you feel that something is wrong, correct it in your program of choice, and then bounce it out again and play it. Mix it in between 2 tracks, of DJs that you love and tracks that are really good and that fit the style. So basically take your reference track, then mix in your track, and then mix in a different track. And then see how good they mix. If you have CDJs, do it on your CDJs, for example. So like questions to ask yourself would be, do your intro and outro mix well into the other tracks? Is the energy level as high as in the other tracks, or is it even higher? If it's not higher, yeah, you gotta go back. You gotta go back and see what's wrong, you know? And you gotta be brutally honest. Like it's really hard. And then after you've done that, and I know this takes a lot of discipline, then again, don't listen to to your track for another week. And then after you're done with that, listen just one more time to it. And if you're truly happy, then send it off to mastering. Yeah, the goal should be to create a track that is the ultimate weapon for another DJ. That's when you know, like, you've won, you know? If you can create that, then you're golden. And in order to create a track like that, it needs to have the most extreme emotional impact it could have. And that, again, means it needs to be really well produced, but it should also be original and memorable. And yeah, you gotta be brutally honest, you know, like how memorable is your track? Why is it memorable? What would you remember about it? What wouldn't you remember about it? What's the purpose of it? Just keep in mind that people in general tend to remember simple tracks with vocals on top. So, you know, vocals are sort of like the cheat codes. If you use vocals, like, your chances, it's much easier to make a well-received track with vocals than one without vocals. Yeah, so these would be the 15 steps, basically. Yeah, you know, like when you have some friends or DJs that give you feedback and they criticize you, learn to take it seriously and see it in a positive light. What? Yeah, she always gives me so much shit for my beats. Anyway, you shouldn't be upset if you don't get the response that you're looking for. It's completely normal that these people are not going to be as excited as you are about your beats. Now, the good thing is, that's a good indicator for how the market response will be to your track, you know, because you're not going to get what you think your track is worth. You're going to get what the market thinks your track is worth. So in order to fix this gap, this perception gap, you know, you need these people. You gotta listen to them and take seriously what they tell you, like what they feel and what they don't feel about your track. Yeah, then again, you know, like, you gotta ask yourself, would your track be played by DJs that you look up to? You gotta be brutally honest to yourself, like, seriously, you know in your heart if your track has the same quality and is ready, or if it's not. And the problem is with newer producers, you know, they sort of fool themselves into thinking that their tracks are ready when they're not. Because they listen to their own music so many times until it sounds really good to their ears, and then they send it to their idols and they're surprised because they don't get an answer, or they get a shit answer, you know? It's because essentially you fooled yourself. You tricked yourself into thinking that your track would be something that it's not. And yeah, you know, like, if you in your heart think that your track is not quite there yet, take a break, give it 2 or 3 weeks, and then go back to it. It's gonna sound like a brand new track, and you're gonna be able to work on it again. Just let it rest. Work on a different track. Yeah, just don't fall in love with your own track. You know, see it as a project. You know, it needs to taste good for the others, not only for you. So, what else? yeah, if you're worried on you know, copying too much, you don't want to have an exact copy of your reference track. That's shit. I mean, like, you know, nobody needs that because there is already the reference track on the market. So if you want to give the people something new, you got to change it somehow, right? But then again, you run the risk of ruining the winning formula. I get it. It's hard. It takes a lot of practice. Innovation is so much harder than it seems to be because it's so easy to bring a working formula out of balance. But you know, a good way, I think, is, for example, to take the structure of one track and combine it with the emotional impact or the style of another track. So I don't know. I'm trying to find. So you can recombine basically, but this is a bit advanced now, I guess, and harder to apply. But I think if you're starting out, like, you know, just chances are, if you're starting out, that your track, even though you try to copy the reference track, it's not going to sound like the reference track because you're going to notice how hard it is to actually replicate a track, you know. And yeah, you know, like, oh, if you do that a couple of times, you're going to notice, you're going to get better at it. And once you get better at it, you're going to feel more confident in putting in your own new ingredients that are yours, you know. And that way you won't be a complete copycat. So but in order to learn to get there, like you almost got to earn the right to innovate, you know. First you got to understand the structure and be able to replicate it basically. So, but yeah, so the process that I just described, the 15 steps, you know, apply this system continuously. Like, so the first time it will take you super duper long to do it. Why? Because especially in tech house music, you have so many little fucking details in the really good tracks, you know. They're so small, and if you want to like replicate them or whatever, you know, put them in your own arrangement, you got to listen so carefully, and it takes time to train the ears. Now the good news is, the second time you will be much faster. The third time you will be much faster again. So, and you always gotta tell yourself, you should rather produce one track every 3 months, and that track is really outstandingly good, instead of having 5 tracks per month that are just average. Man, you know, be honest to yourself, there are so many tracks, like everybody can make it a sort of semi-decent track in Ableton in 3 hours nowadays, or like an hour even, you know, because it's so simple. But it's so what separates the men from the boys is really the emotional impact that I discussed before, and that takes time, you know. So wrap your head around that. And then yeah, just something personal, maybe you know it, maybe you don't. I have an EP release coming up on Daylight Robbery Records. It is already available on TrackSource. It consists of my 2 tracks, Bedouin and Instinct. You know, I'm gonna be honest with you, like, it's my dream to get these tracks high up in the overall charts, on TrackSource and Beatport and so on, because I've been working so hard on them, you know, and they mean a lot to me. Yeah, a lot of time and effort went into that. So it's about my pride as a producer, you know, but it's also about getting gigs and being able to release music on really hot labels, and, you know, to get invited to play awesome shows basically. So, you know, the bigger labels, the promoters, they are watching the charts, so it makes sense to try and get up high in there. So I really hope that, you know, with these kind of videos I can help you out. And if you feel I do, like, I would appreciate it very much if you could help me out as well. You know, it costs you $2 or $3, I don't know, not that much, to go and buy the tracks on TrackSource or Beatport or everything, I don't care. But yeah, you would help me out a lot just by doing that. Not because I earn so much money from that, you know, the label gets most of the money. It's not about that. It's more about the chart position and the promotional stuff that could help me out. So yeah, if you want to see more videos like this, and motivate me a little bit. Yeah, I always find it cool, you know, like to read all the nice comments that you guys send me. And but yeah, if you want to show your support, you can, just by buying my tracks. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. And if you do buy the tracks, please send me a quick note or a direct message or whatever. Just let me know who you are. I want to get to know you. And yeah, last but not least, please also give me feedback. You know, I'm just a dude who loves music, and I'm just figuring this all out. And yeah, I've been needing a long time to get to the point where I am now, and I hope, you know, maybe I can give you an answer or two. But I'm sure that there are so many better ways or approaches to, you know, that I can learn from you. So if you see something in my videos where you say, like, wait, man, you know, I know a way better way to do that, yeah, please let me know. I'm interested. So please put it into the comment section or so. And yeah, apart from that, I wish you a good day, and I hope that you're gonna have many good productions. And yeah, if you haven't done so already, scroll back in the video, write down the 15 steps, and then I know it takes some time, but if you apply the system, you're really gonna push your productions to the next level. And yeah, if you want to have a certain topic discussed more in detail or so, please let me know. Take care.